Hey everyone, welcome to a author Ask Me Anything sort of quarantine edition. I'm Tim Meyer. I'm going to kind of drive this thing and field the questions. We also have Wesley Southard, Matt Hayward, Chad Lutzke, and Robert Ford.
Yeah.
So I figure before we get started going into the questions, maybe we could just quickly introduce ourselves. So Wes, you want to start us off, man?
Yeah. Again, I'm Wesley Southard. I guess do you need us to say like our books or something?
Yeah, just quick, brief.
Yeah. I'm Wesley Southard, author of The Betrayed, Closing Costs, One for the Road, Resisting Madness, and the upcoming Slaves to Gravity, co-written with Summer Cannon.
Awesome, Matt.
Yep. My name is Matt Hayward. I wrote What the Monsters Fear, The Faithful Practitioners with Patrick Lacey, two collections, Brain Dead Blues, Very States of Decay, and the Lowback series with Bob Ford. And then my new novel, Those Below the Treehouse, comes out in June.
Awesome. Chad Lutzke.
Hey, I'm Chad Lutzke. I wrote Foster Homes and Flies, During the Sheets, Skullface Boy, Pale White, Up Behind the Barn with John Bowden, and The Neon Owl that just came out a couple months ago.
Nice. And I'm Bob Ford. I've written the novels The Compound, Samson in Denial, The Collection, The God Beneath My Garden. As Matt Hayward mentioned, the Lowback series, co-written with him. Rattlesnake Kisses and Cattywampus with John Bowden. And I don't know, bunch of other stuff.
Awesome.
John Bowden, what a whore.
He is.
I love Bowden.
Yeah.
Me too.
He's easy to love.
Awesome. Like I said, I'm Tim Meyer. I've written about 15 books myself. The Switch House, Kill Hill Carnage. My newest book is coming out next week from Poltergeist Press called Dead Daughters. So pretty excited about that one. So all right. Let's start with some questions. I don't really see anything in the chat, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to load them up in there. But I guess I'll just start. I'll throw one out there real quick, real basic. How did you guys get started writing? So Wes, you want to start?
Yeah. I more or less started because I needed a creative output outside of what I was doing before. I started out as a musician when I was very young, and I thought that that's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a heavy metal guitar player in a touring band the rest of my life, and that was going to be my life. And I went to music school in Atlanta, Georgia, and graduated back in 2007 with a guitar degree. And then moved back home and just wasn't happy playing music anymore. I couldn't find anybody that wanted to play, and the few people that did play weren't really into what I was wanting to do, and it was kind of a bummer. It was kind of a letdown that like my music dream was kind of dying. But I'd always written some when I was younger and some in high school and stuff, but nothing I took very serious. But then I just kind of started writing and found that I really liked it, and I had like a minuscule amount of talent in it, and kind of started going from there. And then I don't know, I started working on my novel, and that was back in 2007, and just been going ever since and having fun and meeting these rapscallions here. So
awesome.
That's my story.
Awesome. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, it's actually a similar story to Wes. I was playing in bands for years, and then we were doing pretty well. We've done quite a bit in the States and stuff like that, in the UK. And then one day, it just fizzled out, and I was pretty much left with nothing. I was working at really shit job that I hated. And I was reading a lot of books when I came home. And I think it was Brian Keene's Darkness on the Edge of Town. When I read that, I thought for fun I would just try a short story. And it just kept snowballing and snowballing. And then, yeah, I was hooked. I was in my like early 20s when I came to this, which is much later than most people when they start fucking around with writing.
Cool. Chad, what about you?
Well, we're on a roll with the band thing, so I was in several bands too. Nothing close to getting anywhere where we were ever making money in any of them, but it was fun. Mostly punk rock, hardcore stuff. But the writing thing didn't come about until I think right after I had done a semester and a half of college, and I never liked reading at all. I never even read a book in my life until I was like 23. Couldn't stand reading at all unless it was like a metal magazine or a skateboarding magazine or something like that. And I didn't do very good at college in my English class. And then once I was out of there that year, I read like just tons of books, mainly like Dean Koontz and Stephen King, Clive Barker, stuff like that, some Lansdale. And that just finally reading did more for me than any English class ever did, because I finally understood. And I paid close attention to how stories were told, things that they needed. And I wrote like 4 short stories. I only submitted one somewhere. This was like 93, I think. And then I quit writing for 20 years. I had kids. I got 3 kids, wife that I've been with for almost 30 years. So just life got in the way and everything. So I decided to start writing again 5 years ago. 6 years ago. 6 years ago. And that's it. It's nothing that I like struggled for a long time. Like I said, it's ironic that I even write to begin with, considering how much I hated. I can sit down with Fangoria, but not The Hobbit or something like that, like everybody else was reading. I just wasn't interested.
Awesome. Bob, what about you?
Well, I started out playing saxophone in a Louisiana jazz band. No, I'm just
Oh man.
When I was a young kid in middle school and stuff, I started writing short stories, and my instructors were I got real lucky. I had some really encouraging instructors and teachers when I was in school, and I moved around a lot in sort of middle school and high school. And I kept on working out, wrote some really bad poetry. And
you look like you write really bad poetry.
Your mom loves it.
I'm sure it does.
So I started writing poetry, and I like I said, I got really lucky with some instructors. And the English teacher I had at the time, she sort of took me under her wing and started kind of teaching me a little bit more. And when I started writing short stories, that was another thing. She's like, all right, what's going on here? What's the deal with you? Do you want to become a writer or what? And at the time, I was heading into graphic design and advertising. I didn't know anybody who made a living as a writer. That seemed really foreign and bizarre and just not achievable to me. I knew I loved it. I knew I enjoyed it, but I continued on with the ad and graphic design career for a long time. And then it wasn't until I met Brian Keene, who was local. I'm the local to him as well. And I met him, and he said, "Why don't you come over to a party? But we're going to do backyard readings. Bring something to read." I was like, "Well, shit, I don't really have anything." So in about 4 days, I wrote a short story called Blue Bottle Summer, and that's what I took with me to his backyard to read. And it started when I got plugged into the crowd of knowing people. That was when I met Brian, I met Jeff Cooper, I met JF Gonzalez. That led me to meet Mary Sangiovanni and Kevin Owen, and it's a tumble down effect from that point on. The people that you meet, going to conventions and things like that, and I started dedicating a lot more time to it. Over the past few years, I've really been pushing hard to really increase the output of work. So, but you guys all know. I mean, hell, this crowd. We write some of the worst, scary shit on the planet, but all of us are pretty warm and open for the most part to welcoming anybody. And that's just how it started for me.
Awesome. Well, I was never in a band, unfortunately, so I don't have any cool musical background stories, but I did read a lot when I was growing up, so that was always an interest for me. I grew up devouring Goosebumps books, and oh man, I love them so much. I still have most of them.
Same here.
But yeah, that kind of got me started into writing my own stories. I remember writing in the 4th grade a story about me and my friends crash landing on an island and getting eaten by dinosaurs, which I actually had to submit for a project. And it didn't go well. But yeah, so ever since then, I kind of just wanted to be a writer. And I started writing screenplays and comic book scripts in high school and college. And then when later on, probably in my mid-20s, I started getting into writing prose. And ever since then, I just haven't looked back. So that's my story. Awesome. So we have a lot of questions piling up here in the chat. The first one I see is from Efren Rodriguez, and it is, are zombie books still going strong? I haven't written a zombie book in a while, so I'll let I don't know, have any of you guys written a zombie book lately?
I haven't done a zombie book, but I still see them all the time. Zombie series that started a few years ago tend to, from Amazon listings and stuff, seem to be still quite popular.
Yeah, you think they're popular now. You just wait. I think they're going to get even more popular.
Oh,
yeah.
Anything that has to do with post-apocalyptic anything is going to go nuts.
I feel like I haven't seen anybody do any zombie stuff in a few years. I feel like that trend has kind of petered off quite a bit.
I always thought so too. Right after Walking Dead, the ratings for that kind of started to tank, and then I just thought people weren't doing it anymore. But
I can't think. Off the top of my head, I feel bad because I know I'm going to be completely missing even somebody that I know. But I can't think of any zombie novels right now at all, that are recent release.
A friend of mine, Zach Bohannon, he had a zombie series called Empty Bodies, and he's releasing, I'm not sure if it's this spring or sometime soon, he's releasing the first book in another one. So
the most recent one I can think of is Aaron Dries and Mark Gunnell's Where the Dead Go to Die.
Okay.
But even that's a few years old.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that was a zombie book.
I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
I think it is too. Yeah, I haven't read it, but yeah.
Really
I
good.
don't. That's one of the few of Aaron's I don't have. No.
I love that book. All right. Next question from Todd Kieslin. When are you guys cutting your first album as a boy band? I say we just pack it up and start tonight. I mean.
Yeah, well, Bob and I already have a group with Kevin Lucia.
Oh,
what were we calling them Centralia boys?
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. We had those pictures up on social media or late last year, I think. Empty Houses and Russian Graveyards, I think, was our album title.
Something like that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that was more of a hip hop group, though.
The Grave Shaker Blues, I believe.
Yeah. Where them steam holes at?
Can I find that on iTunes?
I think it's out of print now.
Damn.
Yeah, it was a limited run.
It
yeah.
sounds amazing. It sounds
We
amazing.
were selling it out of our trunks. Yeah, we were.
All right. Next question from Spooky Noodles. Do you have any advice for new aspiring authors? Matt Hayward, why don't you take this one first?
Just the usual stuff. Just do it as often as possible. Read as often as possible. The big button chair rule.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, really, the only way to do it is to do it. You know.
Agreed.
And also, don't be afraid of submitting places. You're going to rack up rejections. It's part of the gig. Don't let it deter you at all.
Excellent.
Yeah. For a long time, I had all of my rejections in one folder in my emails, and occasionally I would look at them and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'll get there eventually. I'll get there eventually." But yeah, pretty much what Matt said. Like, sit down, write every day, read every day. Have to read every day as well. Yeah, it's just staying consistent. You know, that's consistency is the name of the game.
Yeah, I would add, don't be afraid to reach out to other writers, in the genre.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, we are a pretty welcoming crowd. But if you're going to approach them and you're going to ask for advice in person, or you're going to ask them to read through some of your work, just take their advice, listen to what they're saying. There's a reason why they've been around for a while, don't get offended. One of the things you absolutely have to do as a writer is you got to grow a thick skin. Don't take anything personally. It's if somebody's giving you editing advice or something like that, just take a look at it. Don't get upset. It's not personal. It's just it's all in an effort to improve whatever you've written.
Unless those notes or edits are from Kelly Owen.
Damn.
Always personal.
Somebody just brought up in the chat a very good thing that George Romero's The Living Dead comes out this summer.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Good call.
I got an arc of it, and it's about this fucking thick. It's huge.
Yeah,
So
that's a beat.
what is that book? Is it an original story, or is it just like a novelization of one of his old movies?
It's a new Romero novel that that guy Daniel Krauss finished for him. After Romero passed away, he kind of got hold of the manuscript, and he was allowed to finish it with Romero's notes.
Okay.
So yeah, no, it is a new Romero zombie book.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Very cool.
I also think the name Spooky Noodles is pretty kick-ass. I almost want to have an anthology written down.
That is a cool nickname.
Isn't there something called Creepy Pasta or something? Isn't that pretty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is from Nightworms, aka Sadie Hartman. She asks, how many of you are in book collaborations right now? Well, I am with Chad. We're working on something that we might talk about later. I don't know. Wes, you just finished something with Summer, right? You said?
Yeah. Summer and I have a kind of longish novella coming out July 7th of this year from Silver Shamrock Publishing called Slaves to Gravity. I'm really, really excited about that. We're still waiting on the cover for that one, but I think we know what it's going to look like. We've already talked about what it's going to look like, so I'm really, really excited to see that and to get that one out into the world, because I know we're both very pleased with how it came out.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm doing the Lowback series with Bob. We just finished up the second one, Lady Luck. I've got 2 other collaborations. Don't know if I can say anything. Well, 2 things planned with 2 people that are here.
Too early to talk about, though, probably.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm writing something with Brian Smith at the moment, the Biolords.
Oh yeah. That's cool. How far along is that?
About 15,000 words at the moment. It's my chapter now, but I've been loaded with work. But I'll get back to it soon.
Cool. Awesome. All right.
What about you, Chad? Are you? Can you talk about any of your work right now?
Well, like Tim said, I'm writing something with him and with Bowden, and I mean, like Matt said, some pretty cool plans with some of the people hanging around here. Yeah.
No, with me, John, and Bowden and I are working on the third installment of the Knuckle Bucket Thang series. That's called Hard Licks and Black Salve. So we're moving along this whole thing through some wrenches into things, but we're smoothing that out. And
those fucking titles you guys keep coming up with for those books.
And then of course, this. Yeah, that's right. That's the Bible for Hayward and I.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Next question in the queue is from Chris Enterline. He asks, if you wouldn't have pursued writing, what is something that would have been a creative outlet for you? Chad, why don't you go first?
Music has always been there, but like I said, I mean, there was no way I was gonna live off from that. I didn't try very hard, I don't think, but I've always wanted to work in film. When I was younger, I used to want to be a special effects makeup artist, and then that would be really cool because I like to paint. Well, I hate painting, but I'm decent at it. So, but I just don't ever do it. And but being a director, I think would be a lot of fun.
Wes, what about you?
I mean, kind of the same thing, really. I mean, I'm a huge movie buff. I think working in the movies in some fashion, I think would be really cool. But I think if I wasn't doing that or being like a full-time musician, I don't know why, but it seems the last few years I've become very into cooking. And even though I'm not very good at it, I'm trying to learn how to be better. And I don't know why. I watch a lot of like cooking videos and kind of, I don't know, I get kind of a weird enjoyment out of watching other people cook and make food and stuff. And I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to be like a chef of some sort, I guess. I don't know.
That's cool.
That is cool.
I cook all the time, man. I love cooking.
I love to cook. I'm getting better at it, but I'm not great. What I'd love to do is to be able to actually like cook like really killer barbecue, like one of those dudes, like just makes like just amazing barbecue. Like that would be my jam.
I got a cast iron recently, and I've gone crazy looking at taking care of cast irons and stuff. It's great fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that goes into like keeping those things from rusting. Yeah, they're kind of a pain, actually.
Yeah.
What about you, Bob?
I'd be similar to Chad, I think. Well, music would be the obvious one, but then recently, because I've been doing it so much, book formatting, I never knew I'd enjoy it, but I do.
Oh yeah, and you're doing a great job. Like you say, even Chad's release, the interior design of that was
I love that. That flies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool stuff. I mean, for me, I started working in advertising and design when I was 17, and continued on with that for 20, 25, 20, 27 years, something like that. So that was my direction. I knew I could make money doing that. I wasn't so sure if I was writing full time I could make money doing that. So that's how I ended up there.
Yeah, for me, same thing. I'm a big film buff, so something like directing or something in the art department for film. I'm also really into sports, so probably like sports journalism or something. I think that would have been a good creative outlet for me.
Oh, you do have pretty good hockey hair going, man.
I know, right?
You got a good flow.
Not as good as Chad's and Bob's, but I'm working up to it.
You have a real solid announcer voice though too, Tim.
I do?
Like I could see you announcing a sports game.
Oh man, I hate the sound of my own voice. I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Let's see what else. We have trying to find another question.
I think Kelly's making everybody preface their question with big caps.
Oh, question. There you go. Perfect. All right, we'll go with Kelly's. I can't help but notice if you have flowing locks, do you think having luscious hair helps you be a better writer? Yes, absolutely. But I'm not going to elaborate on it.
Cool. I'll just sit this one out.
Matt had nice hair, but he cut it.
Yeah, I did.
Like a jerk.
Oh, this fucking quarantine, I'll be back in no time.
Yeah, it's true.
I used to have very long hair down to my lower back, but then I got old and fat and bald. So life happens.
Genetics sucks.
Shit genetics.
All right. This question is for Chad and Chad only. Leanne wants to know, can you tell us more about Wormwood? She's so excited for it. I'll let you take it.
I was gonna say it doesn't say Chad only. It's
Yeah, but I'm the host. I can pawn things off on you. That's how this works.
All right. Tell us more about Wormwood. It's coming of age. It's the darkest thing that I've written, and I think Tim too. I think he mentioned something like that, or maybe close to it. I don't know that we're ready to give a synopsis, but
probably not. I don't even think we have like
it's coming of age, and it's dark, arguably perverted.
Yeah.
And is it supernatural?
That's a good question. I was just gonna say no. I wrestled him over that.
Just because 99% of the stuff that I write is all supernatural, so this is like a huge departure for me. But I'm having a lot of fun writing it.
Yeah, I'm proud of it. I'm even the collaborative process is different than I've ever done, and I think Tim has ever done.
Yeah, it's definitely been different, but enjoyable. Almost done with that first draft, so
yeah.
How long is it?
It's like
it's
around
a novel, short novel.
Yeah, it's like around 50 right now.
It'll probably end up. I think it's like 43.
Is it 43?
I mean, unless you've got more that you're waiting to.
You're holding back, Tim.
I'm holding back some stuff.
Okay.
I'm waiting for Chad to catch up.
Yeah, I have been slacking.
What's the longest thing you've written, Tim?
Actually, the novel that I just finished writing last year is just shy of 200K.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's
holy shit.
Yeah,
I'll never be able to do that.
It's also a coming of age novel.
Like like 0 through the age of 80.
Yes, it's a very detailed book. It's got a lot of characters in it, so I think that's why it's kind of it's like Stephen King's It / Robert McCammon's Boy's Life.
Nice.
Meets like Nightmare on Elm Street. It's kind of the way I'm describing it. So yeah, I mean it's just there's a lot of stuff in it, and there's just a lot of characters. So I think that just naturally makes it longer. But it is a little bit more detailed than stuff that I usually write. So I think that's also a good reason why it's so long.
Do you have a hard time juggling multiple characters at once, or do you feel like you're able to tackle that pretty easily?
I find it easy for me. It's easy for me. I don't know. It's all in my head. So,
Yeah.
the bouncing back and forth between different characters is just kind of comes naturally. And my first novel was like that too. So I think that probably helped. It had a big cast. That one was around like 150K. But yeah, I don't know. I like having those big books with lots of characters in it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Question from Chris Enterline. Matt, do you find yourself inspired at all by any folklore from your home country?
Yeah, absolutely. I've put quite a bit of Irish mythology into short stories before. Brenda Blues does a lot of stuff. Does the fairy tree and stuff like that. Various states of decay. I set a lot of stories in Ireland in various states of decay, but I invented a lot of the monsters and the stuff. My new one, the Flood, one that's being shopped around at the moment, that involves a Kelpie, a very underutilized Celtic mythological creature. It's like a water demon, like a horse skeleton. And in the Flood, it's a family are stuck on a rooftop, and they're on a farm, and all the animals are going by, all the dead sheep and stuff. And there's a dead horse, and the daughter spots it first, and they don't believe her that it's moving. It's kind of like a fucked up Irish Jaws.
That's awesome. I'm very into that. All right. Next question from Jennifer Smith. How has the current state of the world affected your writing, production, and sales? Cool. Who wants to go first? Not it.
I know for like the first week and a half, it was really difficult for me to concentrate on sitting and writing anything. I just couldn't get in the headspace. I spent more time just kind of walking from room to room in my house like a ghost, just listening to podcasts, trying to keep my mind off of things. What? Oh, sorry. Yeah. As far as writing, I mean, I've gotten back into writing since I've been off the last 2.5 weeks. I finished up my new novel, and I just finished today writing a new short story. So I've gotten back into the swing of things. As far as sales,
oh, sorry, go ahead, man.
No, go ahead. I mean, as far as sales, like I kind of like obsessively keep an eye on like what's selling and what's not, and I've noticed that like Resisting Madness is still selling ebooks every day, so that's cool. But I mean, I've been selling books from home that I have, like my extra copies and stuff. So yeah, it's been all right. It's getting better mentally, so that's the more important thing. Getting up every day and just keeping yourself busy. So it is what it is.
I got back into the swing of things last week, but in terms of sales, I don't know. I can't tell at the moment because we don't have a KDP thing, so we don't see the instantaneous how it's affecting it. But writing wise, it did take me a while to get back into the swing of things. Since last Monday, I've kind of settled down and gotten into a normal routine again.
Bob, what about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, as far as sales go, I know that there's been a ton of writers. I know Matt and I gave away copies of the Kindle version of Penny for Your Thoughts, and I've given away Samson in Denial. I know there are tons of writers doing that. We've seen, I think that those are, the number of downloads now is definitely higher than it would be if all this crap wasn't going on. Because people are just like, yep, I'm going to be home. I might as well have something to read. But when those promotions were over, I've definitely seen a spike in ebook sales, no doubt about it. As far as how it's been affecting writing, I had been in such a hard.
I haven't. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been in such a hardcore editing mode of mind for such a long time. Coming into this, it's definitely a little difficult to focus on the actual process of writing itself now. Yeah, you know, it's definitely different.
Chad, what about you? Chad? I don't know if you can hear us.
Did we lose him?
Did we lose Chad?
If he can't hear us, we can talk about him.
Can he hear us? He's looking at us.
You can hear us, man.
Hey, Chad.
No, he's gone. I don't know. For me, kind of. Oh, we lost them.
Oh, there he left.
Damn. All right. For me, I haven't really noticed a difference in sales. It's kind of been the same as far as production and writing. Kind of the same. Like I had a few days where I just couldn't write anything. It was difficult, but I'm definitely in the swing of things now. So, Chad, you're back. Are you able to hear us?
Yeah, I could hear everything you guys said.
There we go.
I don't know what happened with me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we couldn't hear you then.
Oh, okay.
So it's you. It's your fault.
Yeah. I haven't been motivated to write very much. I have been painting more, and just other stuff that was going on too with my dad and everything. But I've been trying to make more time, and I've been working on this podcast thing. But I think a lot of it, what happens with me is I have so much going on in my plate right now with deadlines coming up, and the fact that I've got a couple of different collaborations going on, it's coming up that I'm really excited about. And when that kind of stuff happens, and then I don't do anything instead of like trying to get everything done. So between what's going on and then the stress of that slowed me down. Yeah, as far I had a couple. I didn't give anything away, but I had a couple of book sales. For one for Wallflower and one for I think it was Skullface Boy. And so sales were good for a while, and I can't really tell how other books, but as far as self-published books like Skullface Boy and Wallflower and a couple of others, I can see those sales, and I can't tell if at this point if things have changed or not. I think that like 3 weeks ago it was okay, and then I think people started pinching their pennies a little bit more, and maybe not buying as many books, or had all the books that they needed from that first like week. But I think that people are getting a little scared about people are not working or being laid off and stuff, and unsure of what's going on. So
not to mention Amazon's holding most sales right now anyway. So yeah, that's kind of killing it too.
Yeah.
Excellent. Next question. What are your main sources for ideas and inspiration? Examples, movies, video games, music, etc. For me, like I'm big into music. I listen to music all the time, even when I write. So I feel like that stuff influences me. But yeah, movies too. Like movies I grew up on more so than movies I watch now. But what about you, Wes? What's your main source of inspiration?
I'd say definitely movies. I mean, I'm a huge music geek too, but I'd say movies probably. I mean, I watch a lot of movies, but I tend to write very cinematically anyway, so I feel like that's probably the biggest influence when it comes to the way I write. So yeah, probably movies for me.
I think music, with you, Tim. When I'm listening to stuff, I kind of get a nice visual going on, and then mostly when I'm lying down to sleep, I just see fucking bizarre shit. And try to remember it for the morning.
Chad, what about you?
Movies for sure, particularly indie films, because they seem to have the most unique ideas involved. They're not created to draw an audience, like to draw like the masses, like something like, say, a superhero movie might do or something like that. So they take more chances, and so I get really influenced from that. And they usually have good dialogue, and I think it's a good place to learn dialogue too. But also just past life experiences, observation, watching people, news articles, or even you can get an idea from, well, I do anyway. If I'm watching a movie or if I'm reading a book and the book is not necessarily heading in the direction that I think it might, it can spark an idea. I remember I was reading James Newman's Midnight Rain, which is an excellent coming of age book. And there was a point in the book where a mother, the protagonist's mother was coming downstairs, or he was coming downstairs to talk to his mom. And I thought, what if his mom was dead? And for whatever reason, he just didn't say anything about it to anybody. His mom wasn't sick or anything like that. She wasn't dying. It's just my mind started to wander as I was reading. And then, I spent the next probably 60 seconds staring off and writing A Foster Homes and Flies in my head.
I was just about to say it was Foster Home and Flies.
Yeah. And like I said, it wasn't like stealing anything. The book has absolutely nothing to do with that. It's just that being a writer, I guess my mind tends to take a little something and start writing my own story with it. Just using a very minimal like kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I kind of follow that path a lot too, Chad. And it's a lot of things for me. It'll be some life memory from when I was a kid, or something, an article I read, a documentary I watched, and that little snip will collide with another idea from 2 days ago or whatever. And when those two things mesh, then it's sort of like, okay, that's the kernel now. That's the real idea right there. And I get titles first very often.
Interesting.
And I'll have to figure out what the hell that means. I had the titles for Samson in Denial and Free Ride Angie. I had those for a few years before I had any clue what the story was about. And Mishearing. I have a short story. The title came from my son when he was about 5, and we were out trick-or-treating, and he had something in a piece of bubble gum or something in his mouth, and I was like, "What are you eating right now?" And he said, "Bloodle gum." All right, bloodle gum is such a weird thing for me. So I eventually titled the short story "Bloodle Gum and Lolly Knives," because I heard it wrong. Nice. It's just weird shit like that. But no, inspiration, I think really it comes from anywhere. I mean, watch the news right now. You'll get inspired a whole lot of it.
All right, next question is for Chad. When will the second Neon Owl book be ready?
I haven't started writing it, and I've been wanting to, but I won't start it until I'm done with this thing with Tim, for sure. So I'm hoping that when I do start it, it won't take long at all. My plan is to have it out before. I would like to have it out before fall, because I'll be putting it out myself. So, hopefully by fall. It won't be about poop.
Was the first one about poop?
There is a small like sub case where the guy is they're trying to figure out who's taking a dump in the bushes, but it leads to like a murder mystery and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So you wrote a book about poop. Real nice.
Scat noir.
It was a great subplot, Chad. I'll tell you, I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Matt, have you ever written about poop?
No.
But you've thought about writing about poop, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
Shit.
At least once a day.
I noticed the trend in my own writing. I kind of came to this conclusion a while back that somehow at some point in all of my books someone pukes.
Really?
And I don't know why. I realized that like in every one of my books someone vomits.
You're going to want to look into
Actually,
that.
when I think about it, yeah.
Whatever. I guess I'll just have to keep that trend going.
That's awesome. Next question. Mike asks, hey guys, with everything going on, are you thinking about writing an end of the world book, or have you had enough of this near pandemic craziness? Bob, why don't you go first? Tackle this one.
You know, you had asked somebody had asked the question earlier about zombie novels. I never thought I would write a zombie novel, and yet there's editions of The Compound up there on my shelf. If I was going to write anything about end of the world type of stuff, it would probably be a sequel to that called The Retreat that I had kicked around a little while. But honestly, I think after this is all settled down, I think there are going to be a million plague-based end of the world apocalyptic things, and I don't think that I might be completely wrong, but I think people are going to want to get away from thinking about this crap. I don't think that they're actually going to do very well. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's been my theory. I think there's going to be a ton, and no one's going to buy them.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I've already done the kind of pre-apocalyptic book already, so I think I've got that out of my system right now.
Cool.
Oh,
right.
Tim, before we go on, I just saw a comment there from Tracy about an apocalyptic story of mine from my last collection. I just want to let her know that that's actually going to be the basis for a new novel. I can't say anything else about that, but I'm just going to say that.
Nice.
Excellent. Cool. All right. Kelly Owen asks, do you have any quirks when you sit down to write, like lucky socks, certain music, dried blood on your hands to catch the candlelight just right?
What?
I do music. I mean, I always have to have music to write too. It's got to be on, whether it's like death metal or like instrumental movie scores. I have to have something, and coffee. I need coffee to write. But that's it for me. What about you, Chad?
I just use the keyboard usually.
That's all you need.
No, I'm kidding. Actually, no, there isn't really anything I do. Sometimes well, now I have to use a keyboard because you and I are doing the thing and the way we're doing it. But oftentimes I will write with, I like writing with a pen and notebook because I type 90 plus words a minute. And so when I write it with my hand, I feel like my brain and my hand are a little bit more in sync when I do that because I can't write as fast as I can type. So I don't know. I just like to do that. I've got other things. I got one of the Neo Alpha Smart things, which is good if you're worried about distraction. You can take it outside and there's no glare or anything, and you can't really edit because you can only see like 4 lines, and you can't like get on Facebook with it or anything. So that's pretty nice. But I don't have anything strange I do or anything like that. No, or really anything at all.
No sacrificing goats or
no. Sorry to disappoint.
Damn. What about you, Wes?
I listen to I only just recently discovered that I can actually listen to music and not be completely distracted by it.
Right.
Bob and Kelly and I actually went up to Vermont back in late January for a writer's retreat, and I tried to write for the first day with no music, and all I could hear was just a crackling fireplace, and it was just so dead silent and kind of boring. And I just threw on my Bluetooth headphones and was like, all right, I'm going to really give this a shot and see if I can listen to music. And I found out that I could do it as long as I keep it down very, very low. But yeah, music mostly. I've been kind of listening to a lot of Lacuna Coil lately. I mean, they're one of my favorite bands anyway, but I don't know why I've just gotten in such a kick of their stuff and been just listening to almost their entire catalog, like on a daily basis as I'm writing, just because I really enjoy it. But that's me.
I love their old stuff. Can't really get into the new stuff too much.
See, it took me a while to get into their new stuff. I've been listening to them since Comalies came out, and I love every one of their albums for different reasons, but it took me a little longer to end up really liking their later stuff, like Delirium and the new one, Black Anima. Like, I did not like either of those albums at all because they completely changed up their sound. But now that I have kind of given into it, like, I really, really like those albums a lot. So yeah, everybody's got their thing.
Yeah. It's weird sometimes when you listen to an album, like the first time, you don't connect with it until you listen to it over and over again.
Yeah.
That's happened to me with a few different albums.
Like, I hated their new album. Like, I bought it, I got it the day it came out and listened to it once, and I was like, I hate this so much. I don't want to listen to it anymore. I can't stand this album. I hate the way everything about it sounds. And put it away for like a week, and then just kind of slowly came back to it and started listening to it again. And then over the course of like a month, I was like, holy shit, this album is actually really, really good if I'm not like being really picky about their new sound. But yeah, I really like it a lot, actually.
Cool. Matt, what about you? Got any quirks?
Just coffee. Copious amounts of coffee.
Yes. Coffee is the best. Bob?
Yeah, I usually when I'm editing, no, I have no quirks. I just coffee. When I'm writing, I definitely listen to music, and I alter it depending upon what it is that I'm working on. Matt, you and I came up with sort of a playlist for
Penny, yeah.
Thoughts, yeah, and it's got to get the right feel to it, I guess. If I'm writing a heavy duty violent type of scene, it's Tool, it's 9 Inch Nails, it's something industrial shit. And then there are other parts that I've listened to a lot of blues and Frank Sinatra, things like that. So music definitely plays a big part while I'm in the process of actually writing. But just music, and I have a writing hat that I wear. Those two things, and I'm good to go.
Was that the same hat from Vermont?
Yep.
Yeah.
Smarty Jones.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was trying to think of what the hell it said.
Awesome. Leanne asks, snacks are important to me while reading. Do you guys have any favorite reading or writing snacks? I don't eat when I write. I can't.
Unfortunately, being a fat guy, I'm always eating something. It's usually I have a soda with me while I'm writing and an open bag of Doritos. Boy, I'm so glad I just admitted that. I'm so gross. I'm sorry.
That's a good question.
So I got this big round mug.
I feel like Doritos would be a bad idea while you're typing. Like, you would get all over the keyboard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm typing with one hand and like licking my fingers and shit with the other one.
Such a visual I have of you right now.
Oh yeah. Go to sleep with that on.
Frozen mango is something I've gotten into lately.
What was it?
But frozen mango. I never thought of like.
Bob, did you say mango?
Why? What's up with this? Bob, come back. What's going on?
Oh no. We can't do that.
I
Sorry.
can't say it on air. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I have any I don't think anything really jumps out at me. No, I don't think so. I don't think that I do. Sadly, I don't know. I don't know what that says about me. I don't know.
Chad, do you eat while you write?
No.
No. All right. Brad asks, who are some authors who have inspired you all? So, Wes, go ahead.
I've always said my big three that made me want to be a writer are Brian Keene, J.F. Gonzalez, and Tim Levin. But I'd say my two biggest influences that affect how I write and my writing style in particular are definitely Graham Masterton and Ray Garton. I love the way Ray Garton writes. I think his prose style I really love, and how sharp his action scenes are, and how sharp his punctuation is, especially in those action scenes. And I'm a huge Graham Masterton fan, and I love his storytelling style and how he chooses his certain like he chooses a lot of legends. Like he does a lot of like legends of certain areas of the world, and really and takes a lot of that and creates his own lore with that in his books, and it's really interesting. Now, I don't usually do that myself, but I find that so fascinating that he can do that. Plus, I really like the fact that he never writes any of his books in the same place. They're always in different parts of the world, and he always, even though I'm positive that he hasn't been to most of the places that he's written about, he always makes it seem like he knows exactly what he's talking about that particular place. I think that's very fascinating. He doesn't stick to one spot that he's comfortable in. He branches out into all different places, and I find that really inspiring and something I want to try eventually.
Awesome. Matt?
Likewise, my biggest one when I was starting out was Brian Keene, simply because especially in his leisure stuff like The Conquer Worms, and he had a lot of simplicity of language that I gravitated towards, and that's the kind of thing that made me feel like I could do it. It's kind of like hearing Nirvana when you start playing guitar. You know, it's just 4-chord songs. You go, fuck yeah, I just want to do that. So Keene was the first and the biggest one for me, and then Joe Lansdale for Finding Your Own Voice. Not necessarily because I want to sound like Lansdale, but he was very inspiring in terms of how you could be yourself when you write. You know, you pick up a fucking Lansdale novel, it's a Lansdale novel. It doesn't sound like anyone else, and I think that's very admirable. Chad, you're getting that kind of voice as well. Like you pick up a Lutzke novel, it reads like a fucking Lutzke novel. It doesn't read like someone else. So Lansdale, Keene, oh fuck, there's so many. Like the main Jack Ketchum for just unflinching. You know, no fucking boundaries. That was a big thing for me. Edward Lee for his beautiful language. As much as people like to shit on Lee because he's a, you know, one of the more extreme guys, and people concentrate on his like the big head and stuff like that. But his use of language was glorious. I love Edward Lee.
Yeah, same here. I'm a massive Edward Lee fanboy.
Chad, what about you?
Early on, it was King and Poe. I was really, I think Telltale Heart was one of the first horror stories really outside of like an old horror comic or something that and as a matter of fact, I didn't even read it. I heard it on vinyl, which was pretty cool. But early on, yeah, it was King and Poe. And then once I started writing seriously, I hadn't really read much. I think I had read one Lansdale story, and I had never read Ketchum yet. And I started to gradually find my own voice. And then when I discovered Ketchum and Lansdale, there were so many similarities with my writing is nothing like Ketchum's, and it never will be. I just can't. I'll never write that good. But his topics, the fact that he steers, he writes more real life type horror. Some of my short stories have supernatural elements and stuff, but my longer stuff just never does. The stuff that I'm most proud of and that I have most fun writing never does. And so when I realized that Ketchum does a lot of that same thing, it became like an influence after the fact. When I stumbled upon kind of somebody that was more interested in the kind of stuff that I was interested, like real life people, and telling a horror story using a real person, something that can really happen. And then same with Lansdale. When I started reading more and more of his stuff, he was writing what I wanted to write. Not like Westerns and stuff, but just very clean prose. And he's great with dialogue and just quirkiness. You know, there are some things. I last year I recorded a clip for it was supposed to go in the Joe Lansdale documentary that's been playing around, and the DVD is coming out. I'm not in the documentary, but I'm in the special features of the documentary. And I don't know what clip they're using, but I had put a clip on there that talked about when I mentioned something about Lansdale. If a guy has a scar on his face, for example, it's not just a scar. The scar will be shaped like a dog's dick or something like that. You know, there's so much character and quirkiness and stuff, so many weird little details that he adds. And I was doing that kind of stuff, not as good as Joe. But when I saw that he was kind of doing that too, it helped me build what I was trying to do anyway, and helped kind of strengthen that, I guess. And so the more I found out about Joe, with the way he writes, the fact that he doesn't write a really rough first draft, he writes a really clean first draft, and he revises as he writes. And just other things, like he doesn't stick to one genre, which is something that was really, really important to me from the beginning. I wanted to be able to write some kind of splattery thing, but then also this really heartfelt thing. And I wanted people to come along for the ride while I was doing it, and to hopefully have my voice be in each, one of those. It makes for really scary releases, when I do something like the Neon Owl, and then Strain the Sheets and The Same Deep Water as You. They're all 3 different things, and I get really, really nervous. But I'm trying, like Joe. He's so punk rock when he writes. He just, like he says, you write like everyone you know is dead. Just write for yourself and don't care about anybody else. And it's hard to do because you do want to appease audience. You want to, hopefully make a living out of doing it. But just those ideas that he had were kind of strengthened some of the ones that I was trying to get. So it was like I had Ketchum and Joe Lansdale in my corner without even knowing it. And when I discovered it, it felt really good. So while Poe and King were my early influences, Ketchum, Raymond Carver is another one too, with lean prose, and he's got some cool short story work. But those 3 guys, man, love them.
One of my favorite Lansdale pieces of advice that he gave once was a characteristic is not a character trait. It's how the person feels about that character trait. Like a person with a wooden leg, that's not a character. That's a characteristic. How does he feel about having a wooden leg? That's a character.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Bob, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly going to echo a lot of the names that the other guys have said. Jack Ketchum, absolutely. Stephen King. Finding a copy of the paperback of Carrie when I was way too young to be reading that was absolutely instrumental. I had never read anything like it before, and it just kind of blew me out of the water. But Jack Ketchum, Jeff Gonzalez, absolutely. Lansdale, I would even stretch farther back than that and add E.B. White to it. Reading the gentle way that E.B. White put together prose. It was just soft. It was effortless. You didn't have to work hard at it. And it was just beautiful stuff. It was absolute poetry. Later on, I would add Charlie Kaufman, the screenwriter, to it. The guy who did Adaptation, Being John Malkovich, Eternal, the Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Different things like that. They've all been an influence in one way or another. But, paying attention to the way Lansdale handles situations and dialogue. And, I think, Matt, you mentioned, how Jack was just unflinching. Nothing. He was fearless at what he went after. That type of approach, while I think it can be scary to do as a writer, at least it's sincere as a reader, and I think that's really important to just, there's a lot of things that come up today as trigger warnings or hot topics, and I know that's a big deal, and the novel that I'm kind of finishing up edits on now probably should have trigger warnings. Except the thing is, real life doesn't come with trigger warnings. It doesn't come with safe spaces,
Exactly.
And I think a lot of the reasons why I like some of the older writers like that is they didn't put that shit in there. They didn't put anything like that in there. When you got to that page on The Girl Next Door, and you all know what the hell I'm talking about. When you got to that page, there wasn't a warning that was a heads up. It hit you like a sledgehammer. And I loved that. I loved that ability. I didn't want to be warned going into that stuff. And I love that unflinching approach. I love the honesty behind it. I love that writers, when they do that.
Absolutely.
True. Like I mentioned before, Goosebumps played a huge part early on. Then I kind of evolved into Stephen King. I read Salem's Lot, I think was the first King book I read. And that kind of blew my mind. Also big into Michael Crichton novels and Peter Benchley novels. I just remember getting those from the library consistently. And then later on, I discovered Robert McCammon was huge for me.
Oh, McCammon, yeah, how did I forget that?
And Keene, I discovered Keene probably in like the early 2000s, or right when The Rising came out. And like those two, as far as like style, I would say Keene, McCammon, and Ron Malfi have kind of definitely helped shaped my writing style. So
Malfi's one I feel it doesn't get enough.
Malfi's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, he's great.
And it's not even like the ones you would think. Like I think one of his best ones that nobody ever talks about is a book of his called Cradle Lake. I think Cradle Lake was phenomenal, and I feel like I'm sure like all four of you probably are like, I've never even heard of that one. It's a fucking fantastic novel. It was my understanding when asking him about it, apparently as he was writing The Floating Staircase, I think he said that book is already very, very long, but he said he had written so much and so much side plots and so much other stuff with that he ended up having enough to create a whole nother like full-length novel. And that's what Cradle Lake came out of. And if anybody out there hasn't read Cradle Lake, I would highly suggest reading that. Now, I haven't read it since it first came out as like a hardcover from Delirium, but it was fantastic. I absolutely love that book. But Malfi is a fantastic writer. It's so good.
His prose is so clean.
I love it. He's amazing. Tim, before we do another question, do you want to have a quick round of the little game we have planned?
Yeah, man, go for it.
Okay, so for people watching who don't know, what we're going to do is each of us is going to pick a novel at random. We're going to read a passage, and the other authors have to guess who the writer is. It's a lot of fun. So I've got one lined up here, and I just flashed the cover. Hopefully you didn't see that.
I looked away at it.
I wasn't looking.
Okay, so I'm going to read you 4 or 5 sentences, and you guys try to guess who it is. All right? For a moment, he stood there stunned, the poker grip tight in his hand, breathing heavily, looking around in every direction he knew not what for. For some egress to safety, he could imagine none. For some defensible position, or failing that, some idea to occur to him that would fill the void he could feel growing and spreading through his mind and urging him towards forgetfulness, emptiness, shock.
I have no
Stephanie
idea.
Meyer. No.
I got nothing.
Do you want another sentence?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
He shook his head, forced his eyes to focus. Come on, he thought. Come on, think. That's a whole paragraph.
Nope. Got nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Got
Would
me.
the title of the book completely give it away?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Male or female?
Male.
Male.
American.
Older. Yeah,
Yep.
American. Okay. Older or younger?
Older.
Living or dead?
Dead.
Catch him.
Fuck it. What?
Catch him.
Yep.
That's what when you said poker, I was like, I should say catch him because I think that's catch him. Yeah.
It's off season.
Oh.
Nice.
Nicely done, Chad.
Good call. Who's going next? Or is that it? Is that the round?
Somebody can go next. Do you want to do 2 or 3, and then we'll go back?
I'll go next. I know none of you are going to get this, so this will be fun. Now, I'm probably going to stumble over this because the wording in particular, but I'll do my best here. This is the opening paragraph of this book. It was, but the delimitation seems... Wait a minute, sorry. But the delimitation seems called for regarding the unwritten theorem that unless one is, say, Charles Dickens, the writer must never begin a novel with the words "it was."
Oh,
due
fuck,
to the
I know this. Fuck, I read it recently.
Due to the shiftlessness of the simple past form of the verb "to be." Poet extraordinaire Ezra Pound, for instance, asserted that the verb "to be" and all its indicatives is, was, were, etc., was indeed the most important verb in the English language, but also the weakest. Exceptions to the rules, however, must be minded. And on that dulcetary note, considerate reader, we shall begin again. It was 13 days after the 9-year-old hillbilly boy, Crory Tuckton, son of Dumar and Mary Beth Tuckton, the maiden name of the latter being Martin, niece of the late Jake Martin, and grandson 7-year-old Helton Tuckton had disappeared. To reiterate, the boy disappeared without a trace.
That sounds like King, especially the second half.
King? No.
Yeah.
No, I fucking know this.
I
I
feel like
know the info.
Matt thinks he knows.
Feel
It's
like
def-
I've read this too, but
What's that?
I said I feel like I've read this too, but I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, I know the info. I know the
writer.
fuck. It's not coming to me.
Come on, Matt. It's
I've
right
read
there.
it recently. I know I've read it recently. That intro stuck with me. The whole "to be" thing. Fuck.
It's a weird opening paragraph because the rest of them does not fit that paragraph.
Is that Lee?
What's that, Bob?
Is that Ed Lee?
Fucking
It is.
Yes, it is.
Better too.
Yeah, it's Lee.
And then the rest of it is about people drilling holes
It's
into
complete
heads.
mayhem. Yeah.
But yeah, it always that one of those, that opening paragraph always reminds me of like how intricate Ed Lee is with the English language, but then can also, write about drilling holes in heads,
Sure.
He's
That's
a
what-
very, very talented writer, and I don't think people realize that. And I probably butchered it as I was reading it, but yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah,
that intro paragraph always stuck with me, and it was such a weird, bizarre paragraph to open a book with. But you can tell he was just smiling the whole time as he wrote it.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. No doubt.
That's awesome.
Good job, Bob.
Thanks. All right, I got one for you fellas.
Hide the cover, Bob. Hide the cover.
Oh, I am. My mother told me that when I got to heaven, I'd know everything. Sounds cool, right? But even as a kid, I got to thinking that would mean folks in heaven know what's going to happen to everyone and everything. No more surprises. Example, no fun to root for your favorite team anymore. You know the outcome. And what kind of conversations could you have in heaven? There's no need for them since everyone already knows everything. So even as a kid, I thought that heaven sounded damned boring, and it only got worse.
I don't have a clue, man.
Mm-mm.
Sounds like something you would have written.
It does. It sounds very Bob Fordish.
And then everything you read with that voice sounds like you wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob, you want to read the newspaper? It will sound like something you wrote.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Let me skip ahead just a little. I'll give you another slip. I pull up my coat's wide leather coat around my face and creep around the church and out to the back entrance of the rectory. Running up the circular stairwell, the thought of handling Mushhead to the Stimson unit is as tempting as Sonia's ass. But I can't, because Rollins has always been straight with me. And I already spent half of my paycheck. Echoes of the agitated conversation out front chase me to my room. Mushhead is still there in the dark, sleeping in a cot. Not in a particularly playful mood. I put a hand over his mouth and slap his face hard. All right, this is a story that you all have to read. It's called Dull as Ribbit, and it's by Paul Tremblay.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. I wouldn't have guessed that.
That
What book is
story
that?
is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
What book is that?
That is Compositions for the Young and Old.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, right. I guess I'll go next. All right, here we go. He wasn't sure when he fell asleep. His heart and mind had been racing, and he thought it impossible at the time. The sleeping pills were likely past their expiration date. He'd bought them so long ago when he was still a cop and still had a wife, when his microscopic hometown wasn't falling prey to something unnatural. That's all you get.
This is tough, man.
It is tough.
Yeah, another couple of sentences. Come on.
Nope, that's it.
That's the whole story.
No, because I don't want to give it away.
Okay. Michael Crichton.
What?
Michael Crichton.
No.
Eventually.
Is that Kuntz?
Nope. Someone in this room.
Fuck off.
What?
One of you wrote it, maybe. I don't know. Your name's on the cover, though, so.
Read it again. Read it again, dude.
Oh, man. I just put it down. No, I can't find it. Oh, yes, I found it. He wasn't sure when he fell asleep. His heart and mind had been racing, and he thought it impossible at the time. The sleeping pills were likely past their expiration date. He'd bought them long ago when he was still a cop and still had a wife, when his microscopic hometown wasn't falling prey to something unnatural?
Is this Bob?
Yeah, this is Bob Ford.
Nope.
Nope.
This is so much fun.
You're making me nervous, man.
It's not me. I know that.
That ain't me.
Well, then it's Wes.
No, it's not me.
All right, you ready?
It's Tim.
Nope.
Fuck off.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Well, we know which part Matt didn't write.
Part right.
How's it feel, Hayward?
He's not happy about that.
2018 was a blur, man.
Oh my gosh. You scared me. I thought it was me for some reason, like up in the
man.
part or something.
No, that's great.
That was definitely Lacey's part.
Sure.
I didn't know that.
Oh man, that was great.
All right, I got one. I these are fairly easy, but this one I chose this passage not because of the context of the book, but more the prose, knowing that at least one of you is going to get it. The swelter of the words, the boil and scald of them, were the only gift he'd ever been given. And he held that gift in the same calloused heart as he did his father's final wheeze, as he did the bullet he took near the end of the war. The bullet that should have snuffed his flame, but instead was slowed by the leather vest and the thick strap of the canteen, and so it did no more than burrow into the muscle of his chest like a tick. Some nights, when feeling a certain way, Jones would sneak a finger or two under his shirt to caress the hard bump that lived there, a way of reminding himself he was lucky to breathe, or that he was robbed of death. It went either way sometimes.
I don't know what that is, but I like it.
Yeah, it was nice. I'm really bad at this game.
Yeah.
Hold on.
What are you thinking, Bob?
I was kind of thinking Bob would get it, but
My knee-jerk reaction is McCammon.
That's what I thought too, but I don't think it is, but it does sound McCammon like.
Are you guys going to shoot me if I told you I haven't never read a McCammon book?
Yeah,
We won't shoot you, but we'll just think differently.
I have like 7 or 8 of them. I've just never gotten around to reading them.
Highly recommend it. Anyone?
Yeah. Which one would you recommend the most?
Boy's Life.
Yeah.
Boys Life.
Gone South.
Which one?
Boys Life or Gone South?
Gone South. I have Boys Life actually right. Where is it? It's right on my shelf here.
You guys give it up on this book?
Did you slip in a John Bowden book?
You got it, man.
Oh,
Oh, is that Bowden?
yeah.
Yeah.
I should have known that. I read that damn book.
Nice.
Same. But yeah, Wes, you should definitely read Boy's Life. Like,
Yeah.
that book wrecks me every time I read it.
All right. I'm in between things right now. I'll start that next.
They Thirst also is a really good opening.
I don't think I have The Thirst. I have Wolf's Hour,
Wolf's Hour is good. Too.
Night Boat, Swan Song, and Stinger. Most of them are my paperbacks. Yeah.
All right. Should we hit up some more questions?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. Meter notes. I have not had alcohol since
Hey, Dave.
before my surgery in January. What should I have first? And is putting vodka in my tube feeding machine a bad idea? I'm not a doctor, but it sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah.
But stick with O'Doul's.
Yeah.
Well, one shot of tequila is not going to hurt you, Dave.
Oh, stop, Bob.
Well,
Bad
one bottle of tequila is not a bad idea.
A whole bottle of tequila? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Jesus. All right. Tracy,
This one's a good question.
what's that?
I said this one's a good question. I have the
This is
same.
a good question. When is Lutzke going to go to Scares I Care?
Oh, I've already been there. Didn't you recognize me? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not going this year. I can't go this year.
I'm
But
feeling a lot of people.
every time you guys go there, man, I get really jealous.
You'd have a great time there, man.
Yeah, it's a
I
blast.
have no doubt. It looks like a blast.
Leanne asks, can you guys recommend a book you really liked that you've read recently, not by each other, or one of your all-time favorites?
I've got one that I read recently that's completely out there. I think it's marketed as a young adult book, but it doesn't read like that at all. It's by Todd Strasser, and it's called Fallout. And it's about a group of people stuck in a fallout shelter together, and it kind of hops between the past when they were the dad was building the fallout shelter and the neighbors were making fun of him, and the kids going to school being made fun of, and then the present where they're all stuck in the fallout shelter. It's phenomenal. Really good, really quick read as well. You'd finish in a couple of nights. Todd Strasser is his name, and it's Fallout. Really good.
Interesting. Wes, what about you?
I actually just read my very first ebook recently. I'm not honestly real big into ebook reading. I prefer a physical book in my hands. But I just read Christopher Triana's new one, Gone to See the Riverman, and it was fucking fantastic. Chris is a phenomenal writer to begin with. This book was excellent. It's about a woman who is a very damaged person, but she becomes infatuated with this serial killer, and kind of studies him and goes to see him in jail. And as she visits him, he tells her, I need you to do this one thing for me. I need you to go to this place in the middle of the woods and get this particular item from my shack, and then I need you to take it to the Riverman. And the book is her journey with her handicapped sister, traveling up this river to go find the Riverman, and learning her backstory and her sister's backstory and just all this. Like it was so damn good. It was such a good book. Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. And unfortunately, right now it's only an ebook, but it's definitely worth getting for. I think it was like $3 or something. It's definitely worth checking out.
Check it out. Chad, what about you?
I know the question says not by each other, but the best book that I read this year that I just finished like a week or so ago was A Penny for Your Thoughts by Matt and Bob.
I've heard of it.
Absolutely loved it. But I will give a different one just because she said not by, but I had to mention that because I haven't shut up about it. I just mentioned it on the podcast that I just started doing recently too. But I read this one this year, William Goldman, Magic.
Oh.
And I liked it, man. I'd seen the book, or I'd seen the movie a long time ago, and but I'd never read the book. And I'm a big fan of William Goldman, so I liked it, man. There are parts that are a little dated. There's a scene in there where he's describing what is essentially just a peephole in a door, but he's describing what it is because apparently at the time they were new. Because the way he described it was kind of hilarious. Like the reader really needed to understand instead of just saying, peephole or whatever. So some of it is a little dated, like it's got a little bit of humor and stuff, but great book. I liked it.
Cool.
Creepy movie too with Anthony Hopkins.
I like William Goldman too. I think I have 4 of his screenplays in paperback somewhere over here.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
It's like Marathon Man, Princess Bride, and Butch Cassidy and something else, but pretty cool. Bob, what about you?
You know, I was running through, certain things. My mind immediately went to Ketchum's The Girl Next Door. But I know so many writers, it's certainly on my top 10 list of books, but I can't honestly say that is a book I would revisit. I know a lot of people go to A Boy's Life and read it once a year and things like that. They'll revisit a certain favorite books. The Girl Next Door hits so hard. I'm not sure that I could revisit that as frequently for me. So I'm gonna go with Warren Ellis, Crooked Little Vein, because that is such a madhouse little book of chaos.
Warren Ellis?
Fantastic. Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic.
Oh, I love that book.
Yeah.
So weird, but fun.
Oh yeah. Anything with Godzilla Bukkake in it.
Yeah. That whole scene, that whole thing is ridiculous, but awesome. Let's see. What did I read recently that was awesome? I read The Perfectly Fine House by Stephen Kazanowski and Wiley Young.
Finished that like a week ago.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. It's a different take on the whole haunted house genre. And it had like this The Frighteners. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie.
Oh yeah.
It had like that kind of vibe to it, and that's like one of my favorite movies. So I really dug that. But very cool book. Definitely check it out. All right. Skipping ahead, we got another question by Brad, or from Brad. What other genre besides horror would you like to write a story in? Hayward.
Well, I did it this year. It won't be that until the end of the year, but I wrote my first Western called Calamity. I won't give too much away, but it involves a guy who has a horse called Calamity, and they get into some trouble in a small town, and it's an ode to Jack Ketchum, specifically Red. I thought, what if Red was a Western? So I'm really looking forward to that coming out. Western.
Chad?
What other genre besides horror would you like to write a story in? I guess I've been doing that. I don't know that, The Same Deep Water as You is my answer to a love story. I mean, it's tragic, but and it's dark. And then Neon Owl, the crime thing. But I don't know that I have any interest in writing anything other than, anything that strays too far away from something that could have dark elements in it. Like I'm never going to write fantasy or sci-fi. I'm not smart enough to write science fiction because I don't read it. I would get unless it was like some super isolated thing with a couple characters and just their relationship and the character driven thing was the story rather than like, from what I understand of both fantasy and like fantasy, you got to have your magic systems. You got to know your magic systems or whatever, or you're going to get butchered. And with sci-fi, you got to know some of that kind of stuff and like time travel and just all kinds of stuff that I just don't know anything about. Talk about research and putting a book out like that would be setting yourself up for failure, I guess, for somebody who reads that kind of stuff like all the time, and then they pick up your book and it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. That's not how you teleport or whatever. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that, I guess. A Western would be cool as long as I could keep it dark. But then again, it would probably be some isolated thing instead of some epic thing like Paradise Sky or something, because I don't know a whole lot about that stuff. I don't watch Westerns outside of, Bone Tomahawk and Tombstone and, crap like that.
Those movies.
Wes, what about you?
I'd love to throw my hand at a Western. I've got like this tiny little nugget of an idea. Not even necessarily a nugget of an idea, more or less I have like a couple of characters I'd love to write like as a Western. Which is weird. I feel like Western's starting to kind of make a comeback now.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. It's kind of neat to see actually, because I think that seems like it was kind of a weirdly dying genre for like a long time. I think it's making kind of a comeback now. And I think that's kind of neat to see. I'd really like to throw my hand at like writing a thriller, like a non-supernatural, just straight thriller. My parents read all my stuff and they like it. Like my mom especially likes it. And my dad likes my stuff too, but like he doesn't have like the attention span for like supernatural crazy horror. Like it's just never been his thing, even though like he reared me on watching like Evil Dead and Phantasm and stuff like that. It's just like I feel like the older he's gotten, the less that's like his thing. I remember getting him into reading Tom Piccirilli several years ago, and he really liked especially picks like late stuff like The Last Kind Words and The Last Whispers in the Dark and like the Cold Spot books and stuff. He really liked those. I'd love to write some sort of thriller. Maybe not necessarily like a series. I'm not real big on writing series, but I'd love to write like a thriller book specifically for him that I think he would really, really dig. I think that'd be cool.
Bob?
Yeah, I've always been, I forget which one of you guys mentioned it earlier, but, somebody said you didn't want to be really sort of constrained to one genre. I've always kind of felt that way too. If the story is there and it interests me, I'm just going to kind of run with it and see what happens. I've already written it's not a romance novel. It's a women's fiction. I wrote a novel out that's been well received several years back, and Westerns, absolutely. Westerns are a blast to work on. I grew up watching, Clint Eastwood and Charles Bronson and Lee Van Cleef. I grew up surrounded by Westerns, so that would be a ton of fun to work on. But no, I can't say, off the top of my head what other genre would I like to. It's just whatever the story itself is, then I'll run with it. If it's an interesting story, I'll figure out where to put it genre-wise from there.
Excellent. Yeah, I think I would like to do a Western too. I'm a big fan of that genre, but also I would like to do an epic fantasy series. It'll probably never happen, but like I would love to write like just like a 10-volume epic fantasy, just because it'd be fun. And I'm not even like a big reader of that stuff, but I just think it would be fun to kind of the world building in some of those stories are just fantastic, and I think it would be cool to kind of explore that. But I don't know if I have the patience to sit down and write 10 volumes, 300K each. That would be insane.
That sounds right.
What?
This sounds like a nightmare to write.
Yeah, it does, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Kelly asks, do you read a lot of female written horror? Who and what lately? I do. I try to. I try to diversify my reads as much as possible. But lately I read Laurel Hightower's Whispers in the Dark, and that was really good. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very good. It's one of those books, the less you know about it going in, the better off you are.
I love the cover for that book. I think the cover's fantastic.
Yeah, they did a good job, and it's very well written. And I was impressed. I also read Gemma Armour's Dear Laura.
Oh, yeah.
And that was also very good. Enjoyed that. It's short, so I think I read it in one sitting. And I also read Kelly Owen's Teeth recently, also last month, and that was excellent. So,
well, Kelly, I don't see gender, so it doesn't really affect me. No, shut up, Bob. No, I obviously I'm a big fan of Kelly's work. I love Mary San Giovanni's work. I'm trying to think. I don't know why I'm blanking now. Elizabeth Massey is fantastic. Summer Cannon, one of my close friends. I adore her work. I think her work is fantastic. Yeah, those are my big ones right now. I feel like I'm kind of woefully behind on reading a lot of female writers. I know that's kind of a poo-poo on me, but I'm definitely open to reading anything if anybody wants to suggest things. So.
Anybody else?
Yeah. The obvious ones, Kelly was just mentioned, Mary San Giovanni, Summer Cannon, and one.
CB Hunt. I don't know why I blanked on CB Hunt. I love CB Hunt.
Oh, yes.
I've been going down the rabbit hole lately of old schlocky Ruby Jean Jensen novels, and I've read about 5 in a row now.
Yeah.
And oh my God, Mama, holy fuck! I think it just got re-released. But if you can get your hands on Mama by Ruby Jean Jensen, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I would definitely follow suit. With sort of the big three that you mentioned, and also a new, a rather semi-recent release by Stephanie Evelyn, the cult called Freedom House. It came out earlier this year. That was a lot of fun, and she's got a great personality. She's a lot of fun, to talk to as well. But no, it's one of those things. Female horror writers always come up the topic of that, and I don't know why they kind of it's tough to. I would love to hear other suggestions from people. Hey, I've read this person. You should check them out. That would be awesome to hear. Because I know for a fact they don't get a lot of the limelight. They don't get a lot of attention. It would be great to hear.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's see. I'll take another question from Leanne. Bob, do you have a favorite story of yours that you wrote?
Chasing the Milk.
I would say Racing the Milk, honestly. Yeah, because that was a brutally emotional, personal story wrapped up in metaphor. But when I do love reading that to the audience, that kind of shatters some people. Yeah, I would say probably Racing the Milk or Georgie. One of those two. Yeah. Those are both fun to read live.
All right, let's see. What's your Taco Bell order? And also, can Matt sing Happy Birthday to me? Or just say?
A whole bag of tacos, please.
Couple of things. I don't sing, so I'll say happy birthday. Happy birthday, Gina. The other thing is we don't have Taco Bell in Ireland, so I don't have a Taco Bell order.
Man, you're missing out, man. That's a colon cleanser.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I'll take a Crunchwrap Supreme and a Baja Blast. Go.
These are just words to me. I don't know what they mean.
I miss that old chili cheese burrito, man. I used to eat that shit all the time, and then they got rid of it like a decade ago, and I've been bummed ever since.
Aw.
This is like Gaelic to you, isn't it, Matt?
Oh man. All right. Next question from Chris and Alicia Stamps. What is your favorite vacation spot? Bob, you go first.
Favorite vacation spot.
You looked the most confused, so that's why I called on you.
Thanks, I appreciate that, Tim. I don't know. I would say the most beautiful place that I've ever been has been in Jamaica, but that's my own personal experience. I haven't traveled extensively by any stretch, but Jamaica was pretty damn beautiful. There's a place in Ocho Rios called Dunn's River Falls, and it's a mile-long freshwater spring that flows down the hillside and meets the saltwater ocean. And that was pretty stunning. That was pretty beautiful to watch.
Now, is that as opposed to the freshwater ocean?
Oh, I can't wait to see you in person.
Oh, Bob, you have no idea how bad I want to see you.
Chad, what about you?
I was thinking about that. I don't really have one that like sticks out, like where I just can't wait to get back there or anything. I'm more of like I've got this thing about Los Angeles that I want to live there, and my wife absolutely. I mean, we're not close to, packing up and moving, but there's no way she would do that. If she had her way, we would be living probably way out in the sticks somewhere. I grew up out in the country, and I guess it's cool when you're young. But once I moved to Denver and lived there for a little while, I realized how much I like the city. And so there's something about big cities, and I've never been to California. And there's something about the idea of Los Angeles that I like. I mean, I wouldn't like the smoggy skies or anything, but I think it was. I just like the idea of living somewhere where there's a lot to do and a lot to see other than mountainside or something.
Mm-hmm.
I love city lights and just busy streets.
Now, you said you've never been to LA.
No.
It's pretty cool. My wife and I went, like 4 years ago, I think. We went for a long weekend. It was interesting. I liked it. I think I personally like New York City more, but that's just me. I dig New York City a lot. I think that's a cool place. But yeah, LA is interesting.
Matt, what about you?
Bob's house. I'm not even joking. I love staying in Bob's house.
Oh, that's awesome.
We had some good times.
Oh yeah.
I think the vacation spot I love is actually the same place I just finished writing my novel in. I set it in the very place that my family and I have been vacationing in almost every year since I was born. I haven't been there in a couple of years, unfortunately. It's a place in Florida called New Smyrna Beach. It's just below Daytona, but it's far less touristy and far less dirty. It's a very quiet, cool town. I really like that place a lot. I mean, we've been there so many times. I know where all the good restaurants are. The beach is quiet. We always go to the same damn condo too. It was kind of fun writing my book set in that place because it was just kind of reliving it, even though I haven't been able to be there in so long. But yeah, New Smyrna Beach is like my favorite place. It's kind of weirdly like a second home almost.
There's a little town in the north of Ireland called Buncrana. It's in Donegal. And I haven't been there since I was, like 19 or something. But it's a lovely spot in the country that I love, and I'd love to go back there. It's like it's right on the cliffs, so you can see the ocean. But it's this really small town. It's got a few like pool halls and arcades, and really nice little spot.
I don't go on a lot of vacations, so I don't know if I necessarily have a favorite vacation spot, but I've always wanted to go to Europe, so I'll probably do that at some point. But my wife doesn't fly anywhere, so I'd have to go by myself.
Come stay at my house, Tim.
What?
Come stay at my house.
I will. we'll definitely do that. Also, I kind of want to go to Alaska for some reason. I've heard that's a nice vacation spot. So
I've always wanted to do an Alaskan cruise.
yeah, like an Alaskan cruise. I hear those are very cool and interesting. So
I love cold weather. I'd love to be on a cruise where I got to like bundle up. I think that'd be cool.
yeah,
But I'm not real big, but I'd love to see Alaska too. That'd be cool.
yeah, I think that'd be awesome. So, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but what do you say we take like maybe one or two more questions and then do another round of Matt's game and then call it?
Yeah.
Sure. I'm good to keep going.
I got actually my wife. She wasn't able to log on, but she's got a question.
Go for it.
She handed to me a minute ago. This question is from Make Me Read Your Book podcast. The question is, will you all do my podcast sometime soon? And then in parentheses, except Wes, because I hate him.
Wow.
So yeah, my wife's real cool.
Absolutely, of course.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
I'll let her know.
Anytime.
I'll never be on.
You've been banned.
It's hashtag nepotism.
Tracy asks a pretty cool question. She's curious if we read our reviews. Matt, you want to go first?
The ones that I'm tagged in, yeah. I don't seek out bad reviews. I'm not a masochist. No, if somebody tags me in a review, I'll read it, of course. I love getting feedback on stuff, but I don't seek them out, so I don't read every one of them. I used to when I started, I did, but I quickly got out of the habit. It's a quick way to heartbreak.
Wes, what about you?
Yeah, I tend to read all the ones I get tagged in. Usually the ones I'm not tagged in are the ones I don't want to read. Yeah, for the most part, I read the reviews. I generally check Amazon quite a bit to see what's been posted, but other than that, yeah.
Chad?
Yeah, I read all of them. All of the ones on Goodreads and all of the ones on Amazon. And then if I'm tagged in anything that's like in a blog or a video or something like that, then I'll watch and or read those too. Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to read what I come across. The thing is with Amazon, the reviews there, people posting reviews for you is always a good thing, because when it starts building momentum, it triggers some kind of, Amazon algorithm, and you get into different search feeds and things like that. So yeah, I definitely go back to check and see what's going on. But as Matt said, if you get too tied up in it, it's definitely an easy way to heartbreak. I mean, if you have your first, as a young writer, if you have a first novella out or a first novel or whatever, do not get too caught up in the reviews, because they will slaughter you on one, and the very next day you will get a 5-star glowingly loving review, the same thing. So don't get too tied up into that stuff.
Yeah, you can have 100 5-stars, and it's great. But just one star, and it destroys all of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True that.
I'm like Chad. I kind of read everything. I don't mind the 1-star reviews or negative or critical reviews. I guess I just have really thick skin. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. And it just, it doesn't affect me or my writing or my mental state. I just kind of, you're just bound to get them, because nobody can like everything that you write. It's just going to happen. So, and some of them are things that aren't even like true. Like, it could just be somebody's perspective on something. It's not necessarily like your book is bad. It's just they didn't particularly care for it. So, so yeah, I don't know. They don't bother me. I actually kind of enjoy reading them. I don't know why. I just do.
Can I lead off of that and ask you guys a question? What's the funniest bad review you've ever gotten? Because I can think of one straight away that still makes me chuckle. It was for The Faithful, and I got sent it by about 10 different people when it got posted. And it was so much blasphemy in this book. And they love seeing Irish authors write American characters because I must think they're all backwards hillbillies. Because I had a cook in it who...
well, we are.
American, but they didn't take into account that my heroes were also American. The novel's set in fucking America. Everyone's going to be American in it. And they said there's so much blasphemy. I was like, love, I'm Irish and I write par. It's grass is green. Too much blasphemy.
I co-wrote a post-apocalyptic series of books with my two buddies. And the book is about an apocalyptic event where when people go outside, their skin melts off. And someone said it was too disgusting and gross. And they couldn't, like, it almost made them nauseous. And they gave us a 1 star. So that's my favorite one, because any book that has the power to make somebody like nauseous. I've only gotten nauseous reading a book once, and that was Edward Lee's Big Head book. There's a scene with a colostomy bag hole, and that just made me want to throw up. So for my stuff to achieve that level is just awesome.
I actually pulled up my favorite bad review on Amazon. 2 stars for One for the Road. It says in the review's titled "Silly Gore," and then in big capital letters it just says "Nope." I was gonna kick out of that one.
That's great.
Oh man,
I lost track of who's going next.
I have one on. I think it's. I have one. I think. I have one on Behind the Barn. I can't remember what the whole review said, but it's. Did you?
No, you're here again.
You're back.
Okay, it's because I'm on my Chromebook, and if I use another tab to do anything like search funny reviews of my books, that it lags me out or something. Anyway, on Amazon for Out Behind the Barn, there's a review that says, I can't remember the whole thing, but at the end it said, "Nobody cares what's out behind the barn." Thought that was funny. And then I had one for Stirring the Sheets, and if you haven't read it, then it might not be as funny to you. But it was from a woman who went on a rant about how she's tired of men and how they treat women as objects. So it was funny. But again, yeah, you'd have to read the book to know how funny that is.
No, I've read it. I know what you mean.
No. I've gotten some.
Given the circumstances, that book is extremely tame.
Oh, yeah.
Where I could have gone.
Right.
Oh man. Now I don't know. I've gotten some 1 and 2 star reviews occasionally. None of them really stand out. But I did get. It was a good review, but I did get one a couple weeks ago that I'm still trying to decipher. It said, if you have not read this author, put books down and go back to watching Sesame Street. It's safer there. Now that's verbatim, and I'm still. It was a good review. I'm not sure what it means, but I love it. I might actually frame that one.
Oh my god, that is hilarious.
I've got another book lined up if you just want to have another go.
Yeah, let's do that, and then we'll probably sign off because I gotta run. But just go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to read a paragraph that doesn't give too much away. Inside the terminal, it was chaos, with crowds of reaping relatives and TV crews and firefighters and police. There must have been more than 100 paramedics there too, but they were all they were doing was standing around the baggage carousels looking glum, because there was nobody left alive for them to tend to. I'm doing this one specifically for Wes.
I ain't answering that.
You're gonna kick yourself?
That's Graham, isn't it?
Huh?
Is that Graham Masterton?
Oh, okay. Never mind. It was something. I thought it was something completely fucking different. My bad.
Good
I
job,
should have known that. The first couple of words I heard, I was like, oh, never mind. Okay, gotcha. Which one was that? Blind Panic?
Blind Panic, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good book.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I got one. He thought. Okay, hang on. Okay, he thought then of his mother, and the only way he could remember her was with her hair tied back and with her face sweaty and both of her eyes blacked. That was how she had looked the last time he had seen her, right before she run off with a horse and some cornmeal and a butcher knife. He wondered where she was, and if she now lived in a place where the buildings were straight and the grass was green and the corn was tall. After a while, he got up and peed out the window and smelled the aroma of other nights drifting up from the ground he had poisoned with his water, and thought, I'm better than Papa. He just peed in the corner of the room and shit out the window, splattering it all down the side of the house. I didn't do that. I pee out the window, but I don't shit, and I don't pee in the corner. That's a step up. I go outside for the messy business, and if I had a good house, I'd use the slop jar. I'd go to the privy.
It sounds like Lansdale, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, it does sound like Lansdale.
Fucking yes.
Yeah, that's from White Mule Spotted Pig.
Nice. Can I do my last one? Because since we're kind of closing out, I just have one more book.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Her vision was obscured by swirling white rushes of water and the drifting red wisps of spilt blood. Panicked, she began to swim in the direction she thought the shore was located.
Yeah, I didn't do it.
Where is he?
I don't know.
No? No one?
I didn't catch the end of it. My wife was talking, but I didn't recognize it.
No, I got nothing on that.
Okay. Tim, no one?
Oh wow! I should have known that payback was due. Good one. Good call.
Sorry.
Good call.
Tim
All
hired
right,
a ghostwriter.
Yeah. All right, I got one. Here I go. She let him go. What was the point? At last, when she was sure she wasn't going to be sick, she stood up. What to do now? Go back to Atlanta? No. She didn't feel like making the drive this afternoon. Maybe she'd find a motel room, get herself a bottle of cheap red wine, and let it rip. 2 bottles, maybe. What the hell? She followed her shadow along the winding trail of Rock City. It was a thin, compressed shadow of a woman crushed between the past and the future, and every direction it pointed toward seemed hopeless.
Okay, I don't know who that is, but did you just say Rock City?
Yeah.
Okay, that's weird that I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been there.
Oh,
I know whatever you just read is set in Chattanooga.
okay. It is, actually.
Yeah.
Nobody? Anybody?
No.
All right, this one's going to be a bit off the wall, but Skip Inspector?
Nope.
No. I think most of Skip Inspector stuff takes place up in the Northeast.
Yeah, no, it does. It feels 80s-ish, though. I don't know why.
Close. 1990. But it was probably written in the 80s. It was published in the 90s.
Okay, is this person still writing?
Yes.
Male or female?
Male.
David Scow.
Nope.
Ronald Kelly.
Nope.
No, I got nothing.
All right. Here it goes.
McCallum.
Oh, painful.
Mine.
Painful.
It's pretty good. I've never read it before. I'm about halfway through it.
Damn.
All right, I'm gonna try to do mine. I don't think any of you might. I feel like Matt might get this, maybe, but we'll see. This is the opening paragraph. It's one of my favorite books. Later, they would wonder how they had not guessed the truth. He was waiting in the snow, but after climbing into the car, he did not seem cold. His breath did not condense. He appeared calm and composed. He did not act like a man that needed help. This was a book that came out through Leisure. I read from the hardcover, but that doesn't really matter. British writer.
Simon Clark.
No.
Tim Levin.
Yes.
Good call.
My absolute favorite books of his. Face. Fucking love this book.
I'm doing this kind of thing with Tim actually on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah, Tim. I love Tim's stuff, but his early Leisure stuff was such a huge influence on me. Like Berserk and Face and the Everlasting, and they were so fucking good, man. They were so good. I love his stuff.
I'll tell you a funny story about Tim. When he came over in October to do the reading, me and Sean O'Connor were walking him back to his hotel room, and we were quite drunk well on. It was like 2 a.m, and this guy comes up to us and he goes, "Am I supposed to meet you here?" And me and Levin and Sean were like, "What?" He goes, "Am I supposed to meet you here?" We're like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Aren't you buying drugs from me?" Well, no. We don't want anything, though. And we're like, "No, we don't." The weirdest thing.
I got to meet Tim actually at Bob and Kelly's house back in 2011, right before Horrorfine weekend.
Yeah.
Super sweet guy, man. I got him. It's funny. I actually got him to sign this edition of Face, and there's little. I don't know how well you can make this out. There's little deer tracks, like on the page. And when I bought this on eBay, and it's signed by him, and it says "Follow these steps." And so when I met him, I had him re-sign the book to me, and then he rewrote, "Don't follow these steps."
Nice. Nice.
Perfect.
Nice.
All right. Is that it?
I'll throw one more out for you guys.
Sure.
Her mother had named her Anise, perhaps in hopes that she would grow to fit the name, slender and graceful, maybe a little aloof. Anise Hatcher had instead grown into nearly 6 feet of overstuffed skin and slow movements, not languorous and beautiful, but sluggish and reclusive. She had never been a part of society, preferring to keep her own company, visiting her grandmom daily for silk tea, and hurrying home from work so as not to suffer the simperings of the other waitresses.
Nope.
I figured this one might throw you guys a little.
Mm-hmm.
That is a short story called Silk Tea from Mahidabel Wilson. This collection is absolutely amazing, phenomenal. I wish she would write more.
What book is that?
Dangerous Red, her short story collection.
Okay. And that's what from Necro.
Yep.
I've always meant to get that one, but yeah, I should definitely check that out.
Phenomenal.
Excellent. Well, this was a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah, man.
Definitely.
Definitely. It would have been better if Bob wasn't here, but that's all right.
Wow.
It was just a charity case this time.
Yikes. Well, on that note, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll have to do this again sometime during our quarantine.
Absolutely.
Well, we only got another 8 months of this, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
All right. Bye, everyone.
All right, guys.
See you guys. Have a good night, man.